Hey, everybody. Welcome to What Drives Us, episode 494 for April 5th, 2023. My name is Russell Frost. I am your host for this week's adventure into advanced tech mobility and sustainable energy. Let me introduce the amazing panel I have traveled over the globe to assemble today.
Literally.
Sure.
You guys aren't
me in like Wisconsin or something.
Why do you laugh when I try to imply that you're global treasures deserving long journeys and perilous
global
adventures?
treasures traveled
Okay,
all over the globe. All right, just go for it.
I just called him up on the phone. Let's see. The woman who's always calling out my bullshit, Georgia McKenzie.
Hey, everybody. What is this? April. Oh my God, we made it to April. We made it to April 2023 and we still don't have flying cars. I hope you're all dealing with the disappointment as well as I am.
My robot and I are distraught over the fact that we don't have flying cars. So I get you, Georgia. I get you.
I feel cheated and lied to. Next thing you know, you're going to tell. Really, I've been holding laptops close to my body for the radiation for decades now, and seriously, I have no superpowers or nothing.
Nothing.
Comics lied.
They did. He is our friend in Boulder, Colorado, the owner and founder of Boulder Hybrids, Mr. Paul Guzik.
Hey, everybody. Glad you're here, and lots of stuff to talk about tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. And last and certainly not least, he is Mr. Supercharger, our friend somewhere in the mid-Atlantic area, somewhere east of the Mississippi, Mr. Kacey Green.
So this is our last day in this studio, extended stay hotel situation. We'll be riding on sunbeams directly again. Actually, we already are, because I checked out the house, made sure it wasn't a tatters. It's not clean, but it's not a tatters.
Well, yay. Just getting back into your house, you know?
Right.
That's, yay. You and a baby. Well, we've got a lot of ground to cover, so forgive me if I cut right to the chase and open with a story from Kacey.
Yes. So while I was trolling the web last week, I came across an interesting little stat. So we all know that the Lucid Air Pure with the 19-inch wheels is one of the most efficient EVs that you can buy today. However, that's an expensive automobile. And we're always talking about how everybody can be cleaner and greener, right? Electrify all the things. How about if I told you that more normal people could afford to have that kind of fuel efficiency of 14.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers?
What's that in English? What's that in English?
That's a good question. I don't know. I didn't bother doing the math. So, you can get that today without having to put out Lucid money. You can put out just Hyundai money. And you can get a Hyundai IONIQ 6 with the 18-inch wheels and the long-range trim. There you go. And so it also gets 14.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers combined. And it's not as good in the city as the Lucid, but it is better on the highway, whereas the Lucid is just 14.9 across the board. So I thought that was worth sharing because with the annual fuel cost of 447 Canadian dollars on both vehicles, you can also then get that lower car payment or that lower savings to then drop and pay cash on if you're in the new car market.
I mean, the Lucid Air starts at what, 140?
Something way up there.
Yeah.
80, and then they keep raising the price.
So one other thing we'll touch on later is if you buy a Hyundai, they'll probably be in business next year to service it.
Wow.
Which isn't to say that Lucid won't be, but it's a lot more likely that Hyundai will be there than.
Maybe Hyundai will buy Lucid.
Maybe.
Fire sale.
I can't argue with that, actually. And no one's going to buy Faraday Future.
I've been fixing a IONIQ 5 the last while that's been in a crash. It's a pretty cool car. So Hyundai's really kind of stepped up their game as far as EVs. So I guess we'll see 5 or 10 years from now how good they are, but as of now, they're pretty good. So.
Speaking of Faraday, somehow they actually made it to production.
No, they didn't.
Kudos to them.
Now,
no, April Fool's was last week.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say. I mean, like, they posted something about our first production car, and I'm like, production?
Okay.
Like production? You made 1, 2?
I thought it was like 2, but they got their millions of
2.
investment they needed to not die, and then they said they produced a car. So
I don't know.
Full disclosure, I signed up for a free reservation. Further full disclosure, I probably won't consummate that because it'd be expensive. And who knows if they'll be in business next year.
Oh,
also, because I drive my car, I don't ride in the back and get it chauffeured around. So if I'm going to drive somewhere and then have a Zoom call or whatever, I might as well just go into the place I've driven to, like home or work or whatever, rather than hopping in the back of my car and doing it.
In a zero gravity rear passenger seat. Yeah,
it will have a more comfortable chair than some of the places I might go.
It will. And
is that worth multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars?
If it breaks, you can get parts at the Coda Parts dealership.
Same place.
And it's a fictional place right next to Santa's workshop in the North Pole. I mean, efficiency. I will say this. Way back in 2016, I drove the first IONIQ EV, and I drove the first generation Kia Soul EV. The Soul, not as much as the IONIQ, but the IONIQ, a really boring vanilla electric vehicle. But you know what it was? It was crazy efficient. I want to say.
Oh, you're talking the one that came in the 3 different options. You got the plug-in hybrid, the EV, and the hybrid. Yeah,
right.
That was super efficient. And this is in that same vein, but like a little more luxury, a little bigger.
I want to say 5 or 6 miles to the kilowatt hour. Is that
something like that? It was ridiculously good.
Off the top of my head. Yeah, which is super efficient. And that's, all of a sudden you don't need the bigger battery. It's cheaper to buy, less weight. All of those things that are good in vehicles.
So. Well, I think of it as, I remember when Hyundai started and everybody thought it was the next Yugo. And between it's the next Yugo or nobody can tell the difference between a Hyundai and a Honda. They're going to confuse it for a Honda.
Oh, the name, but not the quality.
Not the name of the quality, but everybody's like, well, what is a Hyundai anyway? We already have a Honda. So it lasted all through that. It weathered the storms. And the thing is that they came into their own in creating good ICE cars. So I'm not surprised that they came up with an efficient entry-level car that suits the people that they aim for. People who are not, they just want a good, nice-looking, solid car that's dependable. They don't have the money for some of the higher price tag brands and bigger names, but the Hyundai puts out a car that works for them and runs pretty darn well. So I think betting on the sustainability, the lifespan of Hyundai IONIQ versus the Lucid, and Hyundai's doing okay. Yeah. It doesn't have to be the Tesla of whatever the heck it's trying to be.
Right. Also, they have a really good warranty for the first owner.
That's the playbook for all the foreign car companies. They come up with a cheap car, sell tons of them, throwaway cars. You remember the early Honda Civics, Corollas, VW Beetles, and then they kind of go more upmarket each year and build loyal customers and improve their products. So,
and the truth of the matter is, whatever is throwaway is really down to who buys it. Because I was talking to my ex and I was basically saying, oh yeah, I still have our bookcases. He's like, you still have it? It's like, yeah, these are the bookcases we had in college 20 years ago that are from IKEA. Right. They're in fine condition. I just don't destroy shit. If you're not a destructive person, your car is going to last. If you take good care of it, they don't have to be built like a tank for it to be able to last. And we have this weird mindset in the culture that it must be built with steel, everything heavy, more just bigger, it's more solid, and in order for it to last. And it's like, have we tried? Weird thought. Have we tried actually just taking care of our shit instead of damaging it?
Also building them so they can be repaired.
Right.
And making, they're easily repairable.
Well, and
Now-
cars are more expensive, so they last.
Hey, I'm
12 to
still
20
rocking my
years now.
2013 Fit, and we're almost this close to hitting 50,000 miles. I haven't
go.
put 50,000 miles on it in 5 years.
Wow.
So I moved an IKEA bookshelf and broke some of the dowels, and they just went in.
You
and they
can
said,
get
"Here,
them
here's some
for
dowels."
free from
Yeah.
IKEA. You can, if you know what product you bought, you can actually go on their website and order them. I actually ordered some because I misplaced some of the pins in the big move to the house. So I went there, and they will ship it to you for free. They will send you
Wow.
a stack of extra. You can label it and put it in your tool chest. That's what I say, Motoko.
Yeah. Motoko has an opinion and will not be denied. I'm going to offer a slight counterpoint to this.
Uh-huh.
And it comes with lots of caveats. But at the day job, I help manage a small fleet of delivery vehicles, most of which are Hyundais and Kias. We put immense amount they drive 13 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I'm here to say that at 150,000 miles, 200,000 miles, those cars are done. They're beat. They're worn out. And you start getting things like everything, like trunk latches and door handles, and stuff just starts breaking. Now, for a normal human buying a car and driving it that same amount of miles, they would get maybe a decade of use out of it. And that's fine. You know what I mean? Like that's for us, obviously, that doesn't work as well. Because
Now, isn't that your poor choice of fleet cars? I mean, and I don't mean you, because you probably would pick something else.
I had nothing to do with that. Yeah.
But that is somebody hunting for the cheapness for as opposed to the efficiency. And if you did a long-term cost-benefit analysis,
and it's the initial cheapness, they're not looking at the total cost of ownership.
Yeah.
Which is
I'm certain if they had bought Corollas instead of Hyundais, they'd cost more in the beginning, but they'd last longer, and the cost per mile over the life of the car would be less.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
But encounters don't look at that.
There is a fantastic article that you can Google on cracked.com, and it's called The High Cost of Being Poor, that goes over how we are nickeled and dimed to death because we can only go with what is available and cost effective for the right now versus doing that long-term purchase. So I can't afford, I finally bought boots that literally cost almost $100 because I needed something more solid and I could actually finally afford it. But I have a lifetime of going with what I could buy for $25. And
that last one season.
And they boots last 6 times as long as the 25.
Well, like I said, I'm pretty light on my stuff. I take extremely good care of it. It's just that something had to take the damage, and that was my Achilles tendons, which are both now badly damaged. But I've managed to make them last 2 or 3 years, but still, something paid.
Yeah. Another example that I think the same article, or at least somebody who wrote a similar premise, look at the fact that people who are lower income and hand to mouth, they can't afford to buy toilet paper in bulk.
Yep.
And that's one way to get you is like, oh, you want the 4-pack? It's actually 5 cents a sheet.
$6 a
You
roll.
want the 5 million pack? It's actually half a cent per roll.
Yeah. Yeah, you did talk about that. It's it's cheaper to get that $12 24 mega roll pack because it lasts longer.
Whereas it doesn't expire if you keep it dry.
And somebody is running backward and forward to the dollar store for 4-packs. I mean, one person can run through a 4-pack in a week. but it's what you can afford.
A week?
A week.
I got nothing.
Well, some
Excellent
people
discussion.
need the paper every session.
We're not going to talk toilet paper.
We're not going down this road, are we?
Talk about it, cars and
Yeah, I mean, because then I'm going to start talking about how toilet paper, while the roll's gotten bigger, it's gotten thinner.
Yes, the single.
So they're actually selling you less toilet paper. It's a mega roll, but it's half the width it used to be. Okay, great, that's cool. Anyway, oh, hey there. Next up, General Motors. I was kind of hoping Mark would be here because Mark's sort of the, I don't want to say defender, but I mean, Mark has an affinity with GM. He was a Volt owner, and I respect that. I'm sorry?
He tried to be here, but the schedule just didn't work.
That's fine. Of course, that's fine. But anyway, GM announced this week that starting in 2024, they would be phasing out Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, two very, very popular interfaces that basically project your phone's display onto a car's touchscreen and allow you to use your phone as the brain and control it through the car. Super convenient. Obviously, you update your phone all the time. So new versions of apps, navigation and all that is all there. You're not worried about paying another data thing because the data is coming from your phone. Tons of feedback about how Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are popular systems. GM is inexplicably announced that they're taking those two systems offline for, wait for it, just their electric vehicles. Why just their electric vehicles?
because they don't want to sell them.
I can't imagine.
Well, because those are the only vehicles actually getting updated. The others are just going to recycle until they can't sell ISIS anymore.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But
That is such a stupid move.
I was talking to my uncle about
Buying a
this.
new car, I would say, screw you, I'm going somewhere else.
Right, yeah. I was talking to my uncle about this, and he pointed out that the last time they tried something like this, he had bought a vehicle. It had OnStar. And the next year, they had obsoleted the modem and the software and everything he needed for the OnStar. And it was going to be some ridiculous price plus labor to get it back online, even though it was still under warranty.
Yeah. Well, and we all know that in general, OEM infotainment systems suck.
They
And they never update them. Have an awful interface where Apple and Android are always updating, always adding features. And that's what the public wants. You have a phone you're familiar with. If you can get that interface in the car and integrate it to the car. We talked years ago on the show about why don't the manufacturers just have a docking station for an iPad if you want a big screen?
And then both Apple and Google made changes to their interface this year so that the OEMs could just replace the dash with the phone or tablet. It would automatically put the GM or whoever branded dials and gauges up there, and they wouldn't even have to waste the manpower on making that development. And instead, they're bringing it in-house, which reminds me personally of when I had the 2012 Volt to the 2013 Volt. They added a energy stream. All it did was show you real time what it was already doing in the app. So I knew that both cars had it, and they had the same computer, and the only difference was like 500 watt hours of battery. And their solution was, oh, you have to buy a new car. I think they started at $40,000 that year. And I'm like, well, can I just give you some money to do the update? Oh, no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't trust them to do this. Like, I trust Apple and Google to update, or the worst, how much is a new phone versus a new car?
I guess the other part of this for me that I just, like, it baffles me is car companies have spent tens of millions of dollars on this over the years, developing their own telematics system, which almost inevitably always fail.
Always.
Badly. And certainly
I
there's
remember
been
if you
some...
hung up the phone the wrong way on both of the Volts, it was a different way each of them. The head unit would freeze until the next time you parked and left it for 30 minutes.
Oh, that's a feature, not a bug.
Right.
That's...
No backup camera. You know how many recalls everybody's had about backup cameras from Tesla to Hyundai and everybody. Oh no, this is fine. Just 30 minutes, you'll be fine.
I'm fascinated by their choice to go with Google, and And I say this as a Google, if anybody could be called a Google fan person, it's definitely me. I'm all Google all the time. But why, honey? Apple Play is popular. CarPlay is popular. This doesn't make sense, and it's not going to boost Google because I might be one of the few people who actually remembers when Google tried to do their own version of Facebook.
Yeah.
It did not work.
So, 2 or 3 times they did.
They've done it
Plus.
several times. Google is good at what they do, but this is not an improvement. And as a person who's used Google Podcasts, it ain't happening, honey. It's not happening. This is not of benefit to GM even.
Yeah, I think it's marketing. Like it sounds like they got it for free. Because remember, Polestar, their system is based on Google, and it sounds like Google said, "Hey, we've already got this thing. Put your Chevy logo on it. What do you think?" And they said, "Oh yeah, we'll take it."
But they're just alienating half the market, right? You know, because iPhone.
I think the
people
Polestar
wanna
works
use
with the
their
iPhone. I don't know that this one will.
And iPhone people are often early adopters of technology, and they're the kind of people might be buying an EV versus someone who has the $29 Google phone that they got at Walmart. Yeah, not a smart business decision, in my opinion.
I'm hoping it was a combo of A, Polestar already did all the heavy lifting, and B, they don't plan to update the fossils anytime soon because in most of the world they'll be out of stock in 10 years or less.
Yeah, well, business is going to business. This is not exactly a great idea.
They're going to do that. Well, speaking of going to business, Kacey has a story about Vancouver residents getting the business.
Yes, elections do matter, even if you don't always get to vote for these people. So, but elections can keep these people at bay. When I moved to Virginia, they had just passed a law that overrode the ability for HOAs to block you from getting solar panels. And they couldn't say where, they couldn't say no. They could politely request that if you had a proper amount of sun in the back away from the street that you put your panels there, but it was just a polite request. So that then leads to what this Vancouver resident ran into. He owns a home or a condo. They have a parking garage, and they went through all the machinations to get in 2 community chargers, and then at the last minute, everybody backed out because of the price. And I do want to point out that I think it was like $13,000 for 2 chargers, and that sounds like a lot, and it might be, but sometimes when you are working with these corporate style parking garages, sometimes it's the real price, and other times they see that parking garage and they say they're going to gouge you, and it's tough to tell which. So this person decided that they were going to install their own. They did all the paperwork, and at the last minute, that gets denied because they considered the parking garage to be common space, and so since he doesn't own a parking space, they have no legal framework to allow this guy to install his own charger, even if he wants to share it with the group. And so this just like reading like line by line, it just started upsetting me, and I was like, let's bring this in front of Georgia and let's hash this out.
Well, that's the problem with the HOA, and that's a problem.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, there was a number of options on the table for house buying that, condos or houses that were part of home. And the minute I saw that, peace out, man. You know why? Because it is up for a vote. And crap like this happens. Now, of course, there are other options. He can always try again, maybe put together a package, come up with a bunch of people who are willing to put together the commitment and share the burden of the cost, but you still have to put it to a vote. And that's the problem with a representative democracy. A really small amount of people that are run for election and are in charge of things are able to say no.
Yep.
Especially HOAs, because the board members are unpaid, so no one wants to do it, and the people who do it are often retired or something. They're having nothing but time, and
Oh,
they
there.
get out of it. And
Local government is like that too, where
Yeah.
literally you're just going, none of y'all have a job? Not a single, nobody. No, okay.
and that is weird because I grew up in Vancouver, and it's a pretty progressive city in a lot of areas. And I know new construction, they have to have X percentage of the parking stalls pre-wired, and new homes have to be pre-wired for EVs. But this is obviously an older structure, and the HOA, and as they call them in Canada, the Strata Council, has vetoed the homeowners' idea.
Well, I can tell you, having been in a number of progressive cities, they are very progressive as long as you keep your progress over there.
That's exactly what happened.
NIMBY.
You don't want any electric car nonsense over here?
Oh, wait, what about my property values?
Right.
So hopefully this homeowner goes and buys a diesel truck and puts the exhaust into the
No.
So there's a couple of things in the favor here that, you know, like you can get it done at the local or regional government, like Virginia did with solar panels. Also, there's the fact that the world is going EV, so eventually this place will have a catastrophic drop in property values, or they'll come to their senses when everybody has to constantly keep taking 30-minute trips every week out of their home when they could have just gone boop and gone to bed. Probably the property value thing will happen more than the actual fixing it thing.
And there are some jurisdictions, like here in Colorado, it's a state law. If you live in a condo complex and you want to put in an EV charger, the HOA cannot deny you. Now they can say you've got to pay for the cost.
And that's fair.
They can't say we're not going to allow it. So maybe they need a law like that in Vancouver for existing infrastructure.
Right, and that was another part of my Georgia angle is not just having to deal with the micro government, but also the local, the city and regional, and that's where being aware of what's going on and watching your elections, all that, it matters.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing with this person is that it is Vancouver, and more than likely, I wonder if there's not something available in the civic landscape that for a recharging station, but who knows?
Yeah. And then he's still got the problem of now he's having to make a 30 to 90-minute trip every week or every other week outside of his home. And like, yeah, he may be close enough that he can walk there and walk back, but what if he's not? And yes, that's all stuff you need to consider before you buy an EV if you are in multifamily, unless you have charging at your office. That's another thing to consider.
Yeah,
but
I mean, in a lot of ways, stuff like this makes there would be a lot of people mocking the plan of the infrastructure, the Biden plan of the coast to coast charging stations that are government owned or at least government funded and prepared. But that's the reason why, because density is a sustainability issue. Population density in housing is necessary to reduce our greenhouse gas output and make our civilization more sustainable. We do better when we are able to maximize the space we use. But when we have to live with each other, we have to make a lot of compromises. We don't all get to have our needs met. And this person has a valid need.
Yes.
It's not being met by the strata.
Right.
Now, why? Well, it could be that there's much more valid reasoning than what we found in that article, or they're all just jerks.
Or
but
both.
And you know what? That's right. It could be they could be talented and able to do both. Let's respect that. Now, the problem is now what does he do to get a charging station that's close enough to him that it's not a big hassle to charge his car?
Right.
So that's something that definitely buyers have to take into consideration when they're buying both their house and when they're buying an EV. You need to know what you're going to do about that.
Yeah.
So more power to them on that.
And another interesting thing about the power makeup in Vancouver is, first of all, gasoline is very expensive. I think it's around $6 a gallon right now. It's the most expensive gasoline in Canada. And the local utility is called BC Hydro because it's all hydroelectric power. 98% of their electricity is already renewable. It just makes sense. Expensive gas, cheap electricity. Let's incentivize people to do EVs, not make it difficult for them. So
Yeah.
unfortunately,
that was something that they complained about. Oh,
guy
these things
might
are
have to
ugly.
move
Like,
to get to charge his car, which sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And you can't just say, oh, he can walk everywhere. This is North America. Not everything is walkable in North America.
No.
A lot of communities are not built to be walkable.
And as Georgia said, in 5-10 years, that's going to be a negative in that complex. So people looking for a home are going to say, oh, you don't have EV chargers? Well, you're off my list. I'm going to go down the street to the next condo complex.
Exactly.
So,
Right.
Yeah. Eventually, they're going to have to bend and do something.
Yeah.
And it's
You've been
going to
around
cost
for 40
more.
years. You don't have plugs?
Yeah,
Oh,
how
we
can I
have
put
HOA.
this? I have watched too many local governments go, oh, this thing that we need and that we have been needing to do is too expensive now. We'll wait until it gets cheaper. And
Oh, God.
It only goes up.
at no point does a civic infrastructure issue become cheaper if you wait and it deteriorates more. Just for the sheer fact that it deteriorates more, so therefore there's more work to be done and it's going to cost you more, even if it's the same per hour. Duh. But you cannot get the same person that will run out and buy the latest, watch me fail all female tests, expensive handbag, Birkin bag, okay? A Birkin bag, if they still produce them, I guess. Something very expensive that people will buy that I personally don't understand, because I have one handbag. I wear it everywhere and it goes everywhere. And as long as it's not busted, hey, look, I got a handbag and I don't give a fuck. So there we go with the handbag. But somebody else will go out and drop $500 on a bag and it won't hold much. My handbag will hold a tablet, a phone, water, and a snack. This is what I want in life. But a little bag that costs $500 and it holds maybe a credit card and a smile, what am I supposed to do with it? But that same person, when you bring up infrastructure and you talk about the long-term need for something, and I definitely understand this one because I did this with a water project, they will sit on it knowing that their water is more and more contaminated to the point where all their population has to go out and buy water for drinking because it's too full of things like selenium, and
lead.
America's lead pipe problem is epic. We have not dealt with most of that. And then I think it took 3 years and we did pass it. And most people who did not show up for the first meetings, and I remember those first meetings because those were some of the first TV broadcast meetings I ever did, showed up to say that we had done this in secret and no one had been allowed to know about it or vote on it. And I said, that I know is a lie. But I can't say that because all I'm here to do is press play on the cameras, plus record on the cameras and let it go out to the people. But yes, and then they will pay more because in the end, after we fought that and then re-brought it up for another vote, yeah, most people, when it's explained, is like, yeah, we have to do it. And we've tried not doing anything and the problem did not resolve itself, oddly enough. And this building is going to run straight into that problem.
Yes.
There is no doubt about it because, as Paul pointed out, this is a city where they have made great strides in green energy and promoting green energy. And yes, EVs are very popular. So $13,000 to put in a charger, hell, double that and get 2 in there for the future. A strata or a homeowners association should be looking to the future. But one of the drawbacks of having a far more advanced aged and retired population be in positions of political leadership, and that includes here, is that they're always trying to, okay, my mistake, before anybody writes anything about ageism, I recognize that ageism in that statement and I withdraw it. There is a tendency to avoid moving and looking towards the future with an eye towards what's next. And there's a tendency to try and maintain the status quo because the status quo is comfortable, the status quo is cheap, and the status quo means you get to be in power without really actually having to do anything for anybody else. But you do look good, and you get a good, cool admiral's hat. Or I would hope. And that's how a lot of people run things, both whether you're talking about a homeowners association or whether you're talking about Congress. It's the honest to God truth. And I think you should try again. I know it sucks to keep losing, but keep working on it, because you know what? This is something this building is going to need. And I bet you if he ran on a platform of modernizing the building to make sure that their investment in these purchases of these living spaces maintains and grows, he'd probably win. And then he could really affect some change. Don't let one defeat knock you down. Try it again.
I'm going to vote to disband mine when the next meeting comes up. Anybody have any motions? Yeah, I motion that we stop this.
We're going to stop. Well, let's go to our next story. Another sort of, I don't know, do we call it a politically, a referendum issue? Yeah.
Elections matter.
Georgia has some news from the City of Light.
Oh, Paris. I love you, Paris. I want to go to Paris, of course. Actually, I would like to visit Paris. I would like to go to France and visit many other places. But Paris, what the hell, man? Now, let's be honest, there's a lot more going on right now in France than just this little vote. But there was an election recently. And you know what happened? It was on a very serious, very important issue. Rental scooters. You know them. You probably are annoyed by them because it seems like they do annoy a lot of people. The e-scooters, Lime,
Bird.
Man, I did not know that they had so much hate. I can't balance on them to save my life, but more, I've always been a little bit jealous of those of you who understand how not to fall over and bust your head open, because that seems to be my natural tendency. But Lime, Dot, Tier, they've been all over there. And Paris gets $1 million a year from rental providers. It provides jobs for 800 people. But you know what Paris just did? They gave it a finger and said, goodbye. We don't want you here. It's annoying. It causes too many accidents. And they said that they're a danger to everyone. Riders don't follow the pedestrian paths. They ignore traffic lights. And, this pisses me off too, because it's just like shopping carts. What kind of inhuman beast are you? You abandon the scooters all over the sidewalks?
Yes.
Shame on you. The deep shame you should have. But that's
uncivilized people.
But you know what happens? And getting back to the people with power over us who make decisions and choices for us are the people we allow to have power over us. You know what, Paris? 7.46% of you actually cast a ballot. That is 103,084 people. What's the population of Paris?
I bet it's slightly more than 100,000.
It is 2.161 million people. So, congratulations, Paris. If you really loved having these scooters, and they said that they got a lot of use, but these e-scooters got a lot of use. They did change the laws. They did work on them. They lowered the top speed. They created designations. They got bike lanes. Yeah. Too bad. 7.46% of you showed up to vote, and at 7.46%, a majority of those people, or the majority of 103,084 people, decided that e-scooters were not meant to be. Now, in other parts of France, e-scooters will be fine. And this does not mean the end of all scooters. So human-powered scooters will stick around. But adieu, a fond adieu for the scooter électronique. It's gone. It'll go away. You'll lose $1 million in income, 800 jobs, because one, those of you users, and you know who you are. What is wrong with you? You can't follow the rules. You're just rude. You can't stay off the sidewalk. You're just dropping them everywhere. What's wrong with you? You ruined a good thing.
No,
and then the other
wait.
side of it, no.
Wait.
And the other side of it is that don't let, if you really loved it and wanted to have it, you should have shown up to vote on it.
So here's where the two-wheel advocate's going to come in. I am sick to fucking death of having four-wheel vehicle owners piss and moan and whine about, oh, the bicyclists go through stop signs and they get in my way and they're horrible. And all those scooters, they're on the sidewalk and they go everywhere and they're crazy. Again, I drive 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for a living. I'm here to tell you there is no larger, more dangerous, lawless bunch than car and truck owners. Okay? The problem isn't the bicyclists who pilot little 30-pound bicycles with their own power, or maybe they have an electric one and it goes almost 30 miles an hour and it still probably weighs like 70 pounds. Okay? The kinetic energy contained in there is not deadly.
Usually.
Well,
show me the victims is all I'm going to say. Show me the victims, and I can show you 100 for every one that were done by cars. Okay,
I avoid driving around on the freeways here just because I can't stand other drivers.
This has nothing to do with the freeways, though.
No. I know it's not, but it's like, no, I get your point. There is
lawless cars.
Car drivers are bigger assholes, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. I watch a lot of how people behave in a car, and I really strive to not, I pray to God not to fall into what is the bad habits, because they're far more dangerous. But the injuries here that people were talking about is mostly collisions on sidewalks, because they had scooter people on the sidewalks out of place because they did not have the rules. Now that they had the rules, but they just put the rules in place. And unfortunately, on top of that, there was a referendum that got on the ballot for whether or not they would even be allowed anymore in the city. And so just as the city did the necessary adjustments, once these came in, then they also had a public vote that said, no, we're going to get rid of it completely. They're not working for us. Now, the great thing about a democracy is that scooter aficionados who really enjoyed using them for a quick trip put a referendum back on the ballot and get the scooters back. That, remember that democracy is a push me, pull you thing. It'll always be this way. It will be this way for as long as if there are 3 people left alive on the planet and there's a democracy, it's going to still flip backward and forward between what they want to do, because that's the way people are. They can't agree on anything. But no, you're absolutely right that cars are far more dangerous. Yeah, they're far more of a problem. But this is more an example of, if you really like your good sustainable thing, 1, don't be a jerk about it. 2, you got to pay attention to what's happening with your local government or your national government, because this is 100,000 people showed up to vote, and less than 100,000 people said no to e-scooters. And so there goes a sustainable, cheap method of transit that meant that people didn't have to get into a car and they could use these e-scooters.
Okay.
I was coming across this story. Most of them framed it as banning all e-scooters, and then if you read in, they'll say rentals. So I guess a good temporary solution until the next vote is buy your own e-scooter.
I know a company called Lime that might be selling some ex-rental scooters.
Yeah, it's true.
Well,
Price.
Now the rental company said that 400,000 people use the scooters every month. 400,000.
More than the people who voted.
Every
Way
month.
way more.
400,000 trips, perhaps. Maybe
40
not 400,000 unique users. I don't
Maybe
know.
I don't know. They say people. They don't specify, but it could be.
It could be 400,000
But-
accounts.
It's still a lot, and that's still
Yeah.
400,000 trips that didn't involve a four-wheeled vehicle. Absolutely.
And if this referendum was scheduled, why didn't the e-scooter people, they know all their users, send them an email and say, hey, buddy, if you
Pop
don't
up
go
before
and
you do your
vote,
next trip.
we're going to go away. Help us
Yeah.
out.
You know,
I hope you enjoyed that trip. Here's your receipt.
the thing is that they may not have really taken it seriously.
Yeah.
Sometimes things do sneak up on the radar, and the opposition, Pura Viva Via Vari Charity, said that they've been working on this for 4 years. So
Well,
yeah,
and I would think a majority of the e-scooter users are under 30, and a lot of those people tend not to vote.
yeah, youth vote. Youth vote. If the youths voted consistently, the landscape of most nations would look very differently. But I thought that was an interesting one to take a look at.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, Georgia. And anytime I get to rail about car ownership, there we go. That's what this show's
I did
all
it
about.
for
And
you.
speaking, I'm sorry.
I did it for you.
Thank you. Well, speaking of doing it for me, Kacey's doing one for me too.
Yeah.
Kacey has some news about a motorcycle that I'm going to let Kacey talk about.
So while we're on the topic of two-wheel vehicles, the Harley LiveWire 1 is now available in Europe. In Germany, you can get it for 24,000 euros, France, 25,000 euros, Netherlands, 25,000 euros, and the UK for 22,000 pounds. You can reserve it for just 100 euros, and reservations are open now. And this is the loudest EV motorcycle on the market because it's a Harley. It has to be loud. And it's not like it's got artificial noises that are doing it. They just made the gears really loud because they could. There you go.
Yay! Overpriced, horrible motorcycle.
Can't you buy
Oh
like
yeah,
a car for that price?
You could get a car for that price.
You could buy a couple of cars for that.
How many of
price.
their combustion motorcycles could you buy for that?
I don't know.
They're
I'm
expensive
not,
too.
I'm not a Harley fan.
$30,000.
Yeah, I mean that's $30,000 for a LiveWire is just insane. It's just insane, and I got nothing. It's
I-
There's
by.
only a few chances to survive because
You're
they're
gonna sell, like,
aging
10 of them?
customer base.
I'm sorry, Paul.
Are they going to sell like 10 of them and then go to business? I mean,
I don't know what Harley's plan for the future is. I think they made, like so many other motorcycle companies, they made so much damn money over the last few years that they're kind of living in this like, we're always going to be rich. Everybody's going to always pay over MSRP for our product. It's always going to be wonderful. And, until there's a reckoning, there's no reason they shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
Evan.
I know people that used to ride motorcycles who do not do it now because drivers are getting stupider and stupider. And you're really chasing death if you get on a two-wheeled motor vehicle.
There's that scar there.
Yeah.
That scar there. Yeah, that was one motorist who just
And it's
decided to.
because car drivers aren't looking at the road; they're looking at their phone.
Yeah, or whatever. They're just
Or malicious sometimes.
Sometimes it's
Looking at
very
the road.
malicious. I mean, I love bikes and everything else, but when I can't ride two wheels, I have no balance. Booty don't balance, I guess. I don't know. Two, I would never ride anywhere except I would probably do a trailer and haul it somewhere just to take it out to someplace rural and really enjoy like a nice, peaceful, relatively safe bike ride, or be like a friend of mine and just do a track racing thing because
Yeah,
I see how people behave on these roads.
I get that. Well, Rivian electric truck and SUV maker Rivian in Arizona announced they're going to lay off 1,300 people in their Casa Grande factory in Arizona.
I thought that's Lucid.
I'm sorry?
Lucid.
I think you're talking about
It's Lucid.
Lucid. No.
Rivian told everybody they had to work in the office.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Lucid. I did say Rivian. What am I saying? Lucid. And we talked about Lucid earlier. This is not an inexpensive vehicle. These are vehicles that start at $1.50 and go up from there. They're gorgeous vehicles. There's a lot of advantages to them. They are by no means perfect. I've certainly heard negative feedback as well, but for the most part,
not a good sign when you lay off most of your factory.
I don't, this is sort of, and again, I maybe if Patrick was here, he would have a different side of this. This is sort of my thing with like Arcimoto. I think Arcimoto as an idea was great, but as it actually happened in real life, when it started out, it was going to be this cool 3-wheel electric thing. It was going to be like 11 grand and it was going to have a little roof. Yay. It was going to be cool. And then it turned out to be like 20 or 25 grand and the steering was kind of hanky and the range wasn't that great. It doesn't have to be killer, but for twice the money, it's not about, for 25,000, you can buy an electric car somewhere. You could buy a used car with 100-mile range, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, and I get Lucid's at the total other end of the market. And the Air is a beautiful vehicle. But, yeah, that's a danger flag, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. 18% staff reduction is what this represents. That's a big chunk of your people.
And if they had a huge waiting list of customers, they would be hiring people to fill those orders. So
Yep.
There's something behind the scenes happening with Lucid.
Something going on with Lucid, and that's a shame. That's certainly the company that you would think would be ripe for a IP buyout if they went under. If they went belly up. I would have to think there's some IP there worth some significant money. Even
if
if
it's a Genesis badge on that, and people actually know what it is, rather than kind of guess, is that luxury? Who makes it? Lucid? Who makes that? Lucid?
Yeah.
Oh, who are they? Where are they made?
Where indeed. Well, last and certainly not least, let's go to Georgia, who has some good news from our friends GM, who are earlier going to take away all of our cell phone connectivity, but they're still doing okay.
Hey, you know what?
I don't.
Let us close on something good, something positive. And I say GM selling over 20,000 EVs for the first time in their first quarter is pretty dang good news. That's the Chevy Bolt, Cadillac Lyriq. They are up. Over 20,000 were sold in 2020, the first quarter of 2023. They expect progress to continue, and they are on track to build another 50,000 EVs in North America through June. The plan is to double that through the second half of 2023. I think that's a pretty solid start to the year, and that was what the CEO Mary Barrett claimed. So this first quarter was the third consecutive record quarter for the Chevy Bolt EV and the EUV. They sold 19,700 alone, up from 358 in the first quarter of 2022. Bolt production resumed production in April of 2022 after the recall, and it's now one of the top EVs in its class. So I think that's pretty damn good. Huh?
So I see them all over the place.
Yeah, well, I have to admit, my family has always been my stepdad is a mechanic, and he's always been a Honda or Toyota person. So I was never allowed a Chevy.
Get that.
Well, and to put this into perspective, 20,000 sounds like a great number.
It does.
But the only data I could find was Q4 of last year. They sold basically 140,000 Silverado pickup trucks. So we've got a long way to go, Chevy, to get on the EV wagon.
And when you look at other EV manufacturers, they'll do that in a couple of weeks, not even a whole month. And GM claims that they're going to be a leader by next year.
And in Q4 last year, they made 72 Hummer EVs.
72. This thing's been on the market for what, 2 years now? 3?
Oh, thank God. I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? Well, yes, you're right. 20,000 EVs, piss in the bucket compared to these 600,000 total sales for GM. 3% of its total sales. And yes, other manufacturers are doing double digits to full 100% EV sales.
But it's about 19,800 more than Toyota sold.
But that's like saying, it's a new flavor, man. They just really got into the market. And we're going to start seeing an escalation of scale.
My first Volt is older than your Fit. They've had practice at this.
Hey, speaking of, I saw my first BZ out in the wild yesterday.
Really?
Actually, with an owner's plate. I'm sorry?
Were the wheels still on it?
Yeah. Ouch. Ouch.
Dang.
So Paul, their excuse was they went from like the regular lug nuts you put your socket on to the one that are like kind of like an Allen key. Is that really a reason that the wheels should be falling off? I mean, you probably run into other manufacturers that use those, right?
Toyota puts millions of wheels on every year. They know how to do it. I'm sure they engineered it. That was a good scapegoat for some other reason.
Like the airbags being deadly again,
or
which was something they fixed while it was on the original
subcontractor or something.
Oh, that's another good one right there. Ooh. So they would admit to the airbag, "Oh, we found this while we were keeping the wheels on," but really they were just trying to keep the battery fires or something out of the news. I can see that.
Yeah. I mean, Toyota knows how to put nuts on a car.
Yeah. And I'm sure that they have that style of nut somewhere in the engines. It's not like they've never used it before.
That might be a show title, Paul.
What's that?
Toyota knows how to put nuts on a car.
Truck nuts and UTZ.
Oh, and JT saw BZ too. Yeah, I just
wow.
Again, I'm out there, and this is a very EV heavy market. It's a very, for the most part, upper demo market. So I see a lot of this stuff, and it's surprising that it's April of 2023, and I just saw my first BZ.
Yeah.
In the road. Doesn't
back
prove
on the subject, I want to say congrats, GM. You did a good thing. Keep it up. Do more action and less freaking talk. We would love to have the option to buy your vehicles, but if you're not making them, then the customers are going to go elsewhere.
That's what they do. Well, let's do some shout outs and go home, because it is 7:00, and that means it's somebody's bedtime. Georgia, you look awfully sleepy. You do. You look awfully sleepy. Maybe it's just, I don't know. Anyway, Paul, I'm going to start with you.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning us in. Hope you learned something. And check us out. What Drives Us on all the platforms. And if you're in Colorado and need your EV or hybrid car service, check me out at boulderhc.com.
I bought my car from Paul. You can too. Kacey Green.
Hit that thumbs up button. So that way the computer knows to share it to people like you. And on Sunday, 1:10 Eastern PM, join us at youtube.com at Kacey Green, and we'll be chatting stuff like this. And
right down there.
Yeah, right down there. Yeah.
That's how it's spelled.
Yeah, that's how it's spelled.
Very, very Brady Bunch today. Well done. Do visit Kacey and check out his Sunday fireside chat show. Do we have a name for it, Kacey?
It's called Let's Chat with Kacey and Friends.
Let's chat
with Kacey and Friends.
Yeah,
there we go. Absolutely. Well, Georgia McKenzie, the voice of reason, bring us home.
Hi, everybody. You've hung out with us for a full stinking hour. Thank you for that. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, because you like us. You really do. And even if you are subscribed, hit the like button, because like tells the algorithm on the YouTubes that this is a pretty cool program. Why don't you recommend it to other people who also like things about sustainability, cars, EVs, and just people hanging out chatting? So go on ahead, hit like, hit subscribe, and when you're done here, head on over to Kacey's channel. That is Kacey Green on the YouTube.com, and hit like, hit subscribe. Hang out with Kacey sometimes. Watch him train his car to do things. One day it's going to turn into a transformer and probably destroy the earth. But for right now, it's kind of cute and sweet. So you can watch the tyrant grow. And he can also tell you what happens in the next updates of the DLCs for Teslas. So don't forget, there's some serious technical stuff going on over there too. If you just happen to be over in the Boulder, Colorado area, don't forget to stop by Paul's place. It's Boulder Hybrids. You can buy yourself a lovely car. You can get your hybrid or your EV taken care of over there. Or, stop by and drop off Paul some beer, because he does like a good beer. And he hasn't had one in a while. I think that's a good thing to do. And, well, don't forget also, if you are listening to us on your podcast, you can find us on every single podcast app, every podcast catcher, and hit like, share, leave us a 5-star review, because 5-star reviews are just like hitting like and subscribe here on the YouTubes. It tells people this is a pretty doggone good show. So hit like, and don't forget to give us that 5-star review. And I'm around. You can find me somewhere, or not. I'm not working hard on that one. Back to you there, Russell. You are muted, Russell. Not that we're complaining.
I don't really get to yell at
Muting Russell's a good thing.
I mean, maybe I should do the whole show on mute. It really, arguably,
It wouldn't have the same impact on the podcast.
it would. Thank you, Kacey. Good or bad? I'm not going to ask. I don't want to know. Let's see. Another plug for show 493. Ed Niedermeyer and I sat down and talked for about an hour. The last half hour of which, we shouldn't say the first half hour is bad. It's not. But the last half hour of which I totally unintentionally kind of ambushed him with a topic that I wanted to talk about, that, as it turns out, he's actually doing a bunch of research to write a story about. So if you're interested in constrained supply and why car prices are the way they are and why there aren't cheap cars in general, do watch What Drives Us episode 493 last week with Ed Niedermeyer. Coming up, we're going to do a special show for episode 500, which is coming up soon. That's the big 500, baby. And right around that time as well, there will be a special show where we will sit down with our theme music composer and performer, Michael Manring. Michael and I are going to do probably an hour together. He may be, I don't know, he may have a guitar with him, he may not. But either way, they're always fun hours. So if you have any at all interest in music, do look forward to that very soon. I want to thank Kacey Green, Georgia McKenzie, and Paul Guzik for being here tonight. I want to thank all of you. You are the reasons we do this show. And as always, I want to thank Michael Manring for his theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. Until next week, when you download us and find out what drives us. Thank you, Kacey Green.
Have a good night, everybody.